of the Islamic Republic of Iran, due to their strategic initiative in the Strait of do not need to close it. The closure of the Strait of Hormuz is a response to the conditions imposed by the United States and the Zionists on countries around the world. We strongly reiterate that we will never allow even a single liter of oil to pass through the Hormuz for the benefit of the United States, the Zionists, and their partners. Vessel or its oil cargo that benefits the United States, the Zionist regime, and their hostile allies will be a legitimate target for us.
US and Israeli missiles have caused truly apocalyptic scenes in Iran. In response, Iran has shown it's not just capable of fighting iron with iron, it can effectively hurt economies of its enemies, and is so far struggling to find an antidote.
While the ongoing escalation of the Middle
Day, the Arabic for Jerusalem, which happens on the final Friday of the month of Ramadan, with rallies held in support of Palestinians going on, were heard around them.
Here in Tehran, thousands of Iranians gathered for the annual state-organized Al-Quds Day rally. Chanting death to Israel, America, demonstrators marched through the capital waving portraits of Khamenei and his son Mujtaba, the new supreme leader. We've all come out despite the threats to deliver a firm punch to the mouth of the US, Israel and global arrogance, and to say we will always stand behind Islam and our dear leader.
We were truly happy that our supreme leader, Mujtaba Khamenei, stated the positions of the revolution so decisively in his very first message. We strongly support him and stand behind him.
Earlier that morning, Israel had warned it would target the area. Indeed, at midday, explosions rocked the neighborhood of Ferdowsi Square, just kilometers from the demonstration. Iran's judiciary chief sought to downplay the impact of the Israeli-American strikes.
People are not afraid of these attacks. As you can see, people have come out in this rain, under these hardships. We will not back down in any way. May you be successful.
The march also marked first public appearances of senior government officials since the war began. President Masoud Pezeshkian took selfies with demonstrators, and head of national security Ali Larijani and Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi were seen in the crowd. Observed the last Friday of Ramadan, Quds Day was established in 1979 by Ayatollah Khomeini, shortly after the Islamic Revolution, with the goal of expressing solidarity with Palestinians.
Yesterday, it was remarkable in Benjamin Netanyahu's remarks. Half of them were about his own.
American Empire.
That, but we haven't arrived at that point yet. I think we're getting on that road. There is no doubt that this war has huge geopolitical implications, depending on how it turns out. But at the moment, we haven't quite got there yet, but various elements of it are in place. And the financial crisis will be a particular important, if you like, inflection point in this.
Well, Donald Trump has already declared victory in this. Let me read to you what he said. He says he started the Iran war to keep us out of a war with Iran. I don't want to waste too much time on dealing with that kind of psychobabble, but you say that there are grave implications for a shift in the geopolitical order. If Donald Trump wanted to take an off-ramp, is there such a thing as an off-ramp now? And does Israel have a veto?
Well, both Israel has a veto and Iran has a veto. They need that because, what we're dealing with is two completely different forms of war. One is the typical Western aerial bombardment, massive aerial bombardment by standoff aircraft firing cruise missiles into Iran. And of course that is doing damage. Is it having an effect? What effect is it going to have in terms of the strategy? We just don't know at this point. But what is also clear is Iran is pursuing a long-planned asymmetrical war against the United States. And really, as they say, and it's clear that's correct, it's only just getting started. They haven't used many things. They haven't used many of the 10 to 12 different types of cruise missiles. Some of them are hypersonic. Some have got multiple submunition warheads. Some of them are steerable. They haven't seen, despite it all, I think we've only just seen the strategic speedboats, the, if you like, submersible drones being used in Hormuz. So, it's just getting started. So, we have to wait and see what the full potential looks like, which we haven't got to yet. But when we see the full potential, then we'll be able to judge better whether, what actually is the balance sheet, if you like, of this force.
No one knows how this is going to end, and anyone that says they do know is a fool, considering what we've seen in this century alone with the United States and its interventions in the Middle East. But one thing is clear to me is that, number one, Iran will not accept going back to the status quo. That is for sure. And I would also, considering what you just said about what they still have in their arsenal, it will be Iran that will be dictating the terms and conditions of a ceasefire and an end to this conflict. Would you agree or disagree with that?
Well, I agree entirely. I mean, the terms will be onerous for the United States, maybe politically impossible, but it would be an end to the endless threats of war, an end to the siege on the economy. And it would also require and also include an end to the siege on the Palestinians in Gaza and on Palestinian lands. So, I mean, this may not be possible. And as you say, Netanyahu or the Israelis do have the say in this. I mean, it was they who, if you like, compelled Trump into this war at that Mar-a-Lago meeting summit at the end of the year on 29th of December. And they said to them very much, it's not the nuclear issue. Now, it's not so much that, it is the missile. You've got to destroy all of the missiles because they are not just restoring them, they are producing a completely different paradigm of missile defense. And he gets five.
we shouldn't be surprised that this is all happening at the same time.
We should not. And as I've been trying to describe, I mean, it's complicated, but Iran, in order to cope with the threat of decapitations, because of what they saw in the Iraq War, the decapitation that took place in Baghdad on the command, if you like, echelon of Saddam Hussein's army, have dispersed command across many autonomous regions, with their commanders having their own missiles and with sealed orders about what to do if a supreme leader is killed. And that's what they opened after the killing of the supreme leader, the bombing of him in his home. And then within an hour, that decentralized system, which is, if you like, a sort of mechanized structure that can continue the war, whatever happens to the command leadership in Tehran, can continue with the delegated authority, which is in their instructions, and no one can countermand it under the Constitution except a new supreme leader.
Yeah, listen, which party?
Point, we could see the Houthis coming in and escalating it further by cutting off the Saudi the championship oil via the Red Sea. The Houthis haven't joined in this war so far, but they're ready to do so. I think they're just waiting for a green light when it is suitable for Iran. But we've seen last night, particularly, we saw Hezbollah coming in with massive attacks on northern Israel, to the extent that they were almost calling for evacuation of the north. These are a really major attack, and that has shocked Israeli to the core, because they were told and they've been persuaded. Hezbollah was it had been wounded and had been largely destroyed, and they produced a huge attack. Well, that was one escalation. The other escalation was the ship we saw on fire, an American-linked ship on fire, going to set off the market. That is what matters to Trump more than anything else. The pay for him, markets, because he's worried about the midterm.
In Iran, and what are you urging him to do now, especially with Americans seeing higher prices at the pump and some of the fallout from that across the economy? Do you express any concerns like those you've expressed in the past on the possibility of these extended wars?
Well, Bill, I appreciate the question. I know you guys have to ask it, but imagine the situation. We're in the Situation Room, where you can't even take your iPod in there, or your AirPods, I guess what they're called. You can't take your iPhone in there. You can't take anything in there, because it is the most classified space anywhere in the world. And I sit there with Pete Hegseth and General Kane and Marco Rubio and the entire White House team, and the president and I and the entire senior team are talking about the options and about what we need to do and about how we must best protect the American people. I hate to disappoint you, but I'm not going to show up here and in front of God and everybody else tell you exactly what I said in that classified room, partially because I don't want to go to prison, and partially because I think it's important for the President of the United States to be able to talk to his advisors without those advisors running their mouth to the American media. I want all of us to say a prayer not just for the North Carolinians, but for the people of all of our 50 states who put on the uniform and are willing to sacrifice for the safety and security and freedom of the United States of America. I want every single person, I want you to tell every single person who is serving overseas in harm's way that this crowd in North Carolina has their back. I want all of us to say a prayer, not just for the North Carolinians, but for the people of all of our 50 states who
let alone hearing evidence. He has neutered the grand jury's ability to investigate crime. As a result, Jerome Powell today is now bathed in immunity, preventing my office from investigating the Federal Reserve. This is wrong, and it is without legal authority. In June of 2025, Jerome Powell testified before the Senate Banking Committee, making, quote, questionable statements that did not comport with publicly available documents. And that was regarding the atrocious cost overrun of more than $1 billion. I didn't say million, I said billion, in renovations to his headquarters. This from the man who says that he is the steward of our public funds. In November, the United States Attorney's Office began an inquiry. Prosecutors from my office gathered information for months before we